Fox 5 Live Zone. Well, it's no secret raising or working with sensory children requires a holistic lens, one that views feeding, communication, and regulation not as separate concerns, but as deeply interconnected functions of the body and brain. That's where my next guest comes into play. You see, she wrote a book that offers a whole-body approach for understanding and support the sensory child. Please welcome speech-language pathologist, author, and founder of Asperger's Go. This is Lauren Budd joining us right here on the Live Zone. Good to see you, Lauren. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I got to tell you, I am so excited for you to be here. Why? Because we need to bring more awareness to this, what I would call not necessarily an issue, but something that will really, shall we say, pulls at the heartstrings of so many Americans. Every child is special. However, a sensory child, even that much more special.
I agree.
And so with that being said, why is it that you continue to focus so much day in and day out with regard to sensory children?
Sensory children have a lot of difficulties expressing themselves, and it's very hard. I have my own sensory issues. You know, if I'm seeing somebody stir a straw too much, you know, it drives me crazy. It goes through my skin like nails on a chalkboard. These children need to learn how to communicate, how to regulate their behaviors, desensitize and de-escalate anxiety. And a lot of people ignore that anxiety because they think that they're just behavioral children, but it's real and it needs to be validated.
Why do you think this is overlooked day in and day out so many times?
Well, I really think that a lot of the doctors, you know, we're working on treating the symptom, but we're not looking at the root of the problem and getting to the basis. And if you don't get to the root of the problem of the foundation, like from birth trauma, then it really, you know, doesn't help you to learn about where you have to go for your treatment plan. So if we do this Band-Aid fix, it's just covering it up. But we really have to look at birth trauma, where it starts, and where it starts is really at the pediatrician's office after the baby is born. So I think that we really need to work better as a collaborative approach with all medical professionals, therapists, schools, programs, making sensory rooms in a school at an earlier age so that the proprioception and all those feelings through the body and the mind work together, so the mind, body, and soul.
Perhaps that's why you decided to write the book, none other than The Sensory Child, to which you focus on whole-body approach. I absolutely love this, by the way. We're taking a look at it right now on our screen. A systematic whole-body approach to feeding, communication, and regulation. Why focus on those three, out of curiosity?
Okay, so my father, he was in the hospital, and hospice feeding tubes they were suggesting, and I said, no way, and he came out of the hospital within 3 days eating. Because I knew it was not a feeding disorder. Speech pathologists focus on feeding sometimes, okay, but you have to specialize in it. So we take 2 classes in school. That's pretty much it. And there's a lot of people who will say they're a feeding therapist, but they're really not necessarily so exposed to what I've been seeing. Feeding, we could encourage kids to eat from early intervention, but that doesn't mean you're really a feeding therapist, because you really need to know the anatomy, the structure, the foundation, medical, behavioral, and put it all together, the pieces. So my book, what inspired me was, you know, my father, first of all, when he had the, you know, issues in the hospital and I got him out and eating, he ended up coming up with the name Burgers Go, okay? So then I put as in front of it, and I didn't know what it meant. And then, you know, it just evolved. My whole business evolved. And what I was seeing is that I had like a few clientele with feeding issues. It was hit or miss. I always have been doing feeding for the last 30 years. However, the feeding just went crazy. I had about 25 clients on my caseload about 6 months ago. I have 50 clients a week right now, and I'm not even exaggerating. I'm in doctor's office assessing tongue ties, lip ties, and cheek ties. I look at birth trauma of the proprioception and looking at, you know, what happened in utero that possibly had the effect on these children. These parents need me to spread the word. They need it to be heard. The doctors need it to be heard, because what's going on here is a lot of these children who gain weight, doctor says, you know what, they're on the growth curve, they're good, no worries. And let's just continue with them, you know, and let them eat and just put food in front of them. It's just a phase. They'll eat if they're hungry.
Which that's not the case.
It's not the case. So I have these children who I've prevented from feeding tubes. that I go to the doctor's office with the clientele and I say, no, we're not doing a feeding tube because you didn't start with feeding therapy. You didn't look at the other aspects of it. Let's try first, and then we could always talk about this. So feeding is really a crisis and dilemma. The way that we do it, brain and gut health, it's so important. And these children, parents are struggling. They have like 2 items that a child's eating or 5 items on the repertoire. It's the life story that I hear every day. And then what happens is I'm sitting there seeing these children and I'm getting them to eat. And the first session, and we have neurodivergent children too, I have. So I have kids who are on the spectrum, can't communicate, nonverbal, autistic children, or processing issues, or anxiety, or anything, sensory issues. And I treat it accordingly based on getting to the root of the problem as a diagnostician, not just a therapist, and then treating the effect of what's going on.
This is obviously very near and dear to your heart. You are obviously very passionate about this, and so much so that I want to make sure we convey to our viewers how important this is. The biggest takeaway within your book, and I know that's hard because it's all good, but if there's one thing that you really want the reader to get across, that you wanted to get across rather to the reader, what would that be?
That you need to start looking at, why is your child picky? Picky eating is not typical. If they're a picky eater, picky eating between ages 2 and 4 is typical development. But then 5 and 6, they should be eating by then. So 2 and 4, they might be a little picky, but if they're only eating 2 or 3 items, you know, they say like 5 items. You know, I don't want to talk about numbers. I think that these children are more than numbers. They have a heart. They have anxiety. Something you know as a parent is not right, get it checked out. Now, also, like a funny story, Guy. I was in the Uber yesterday.
Sure.
Okay. And the Uber driver started like just talking to me, and like we just felt that energy. And she just mentioned to me that she just had a baby and her baby's having difficulty eating. So I said, let me help you.
Wow.
And I helped her yesterday with her baby.
The right place at the right time.
Yes. And on the Amtrak, I take this book out, and all of a sudden the woman sitting across from me, she says, I have that book at home. I said, why? Why came out of my mouth. I'm like, do you have a special needs kid? She says, no. I said, well, how? So I started going into all the WH questions, and I'm like, wait a second. So why do you have my book? And she said, my sister-in-law, someone gave her the book. So for me, I just wanted to be recognized, but also I was invited to a very important conference recently. And I also want parents to do genetic testing on their child, because there's a chapter in this book called Renew. Capital R, lowercase e, capital N, capital U.
Okay.
It's a rare genetic disorder that just got discovered by scientists, okay, in the UK. They just came to New York. I was invited to this conference by a wonderful lady named Jessica, and I went to this conference, and I was doing my book signing there, and I met some fabulous people. I met instructor, professor in Montana who is deaf, and I started signing with him. I know sign language fluently. And he didn't realize that I knew it, so I'm like, hi, you know, my name is so-and-so, like, you know, do you want to, you know, talk? So when I met all of these people, I met the children of this rare genetic disorder that just got discovered. And genetic testing is so important, so that needs to be spread. It is going to become a Netflix documentary. I met, like, the people from Netflix there. It was really a fabulous experience, but it really needs to be known also about that, because parents don't know where to go and what to do. So there's so much in this book that I offer, and there are case studies. It's a niche book. It has case studies of my actual clientele, fictitious names. The children got to pick out their own names. So I really, you know, would love to share this.
Well, now's the time to pick this up, guys at home. I'm referring to none other than Sensory Child, a systematic whole-body approach to feeding, communication, and regulation. By the way, just for the record, I'm still a picky eater.
Well, I can
and
help
that's
you.
me. Thank you. So we're going to talk off air.
People are asking me to work with animals too. They call me the Caesar Milan of feeding. So like maybe I should start getting into that. I love animals too. So you never know.
All things sensory, all things success, and all things kind enough to join us on the Live Zone. I'm referring to Lauren Budd. She is a speech-language pathologist, author, and founder of Asperger's Go.
I also do workshops.
She does it all,
I do seminars, so I would love to do something.
We'll have you back.
Thank
all right,
you.
guys, we'll take a quick break. This is the Fox 5 Live Zone.